we had historical relations. Java, Sumatra, Bali, Borneo, Vietnam, which is called Champa. And in fact, Ayodhya's Rajkumari was married to a South Korean Rajkumar.
Great.
So we have very good relationship.
India has been expanding its footprints culturally, not strategically as China. That's why we can leverage this kind of cultural influence, this kind of cultural engages. If once we are engaged culturally, so politically that will become a condition for India.
We are present there and our presence is growing. Like Indians in Singapore are very well respected. Even the president of Singapore is a person of Tamil origin. In Brunei, we have more than 14,000 Indians living there in various walks of life.
Hello and welcome to the Forum for Global Studies latest podcast. Today we have with us India's top voice on diplomacy, India's diplomat, Ambassador JK Tripathi, sir. So you are most welcome and we are so honored and privileged to have you on FGS podcast series. Today the topic is Prime Minister Modi's visit to Brunei and Singapore. So we will talk on more this visit about, because this is a very historic visit. It is visit first ever by an Indian Prime Minister. So today we will know more insights on this visit with our guest, distinguished guest, Ambassador JK Tripathi, sir. Sir, just as we know that Prime Minister Modi is on in his visit on Brunei, how do you see how this visit is historic?
See, during the last 40 years, that is when Brunei became a sovereign country, no Indian Prime Minister or President has ever visited the country. Though Sultana Brunei visited once to take part in Commonwealth Heads of Mission Summit in 1983. But the country got formal independence in 1984, so that will not be counted. So no highest level visits have ever taken place, which is very surprising because I understand, yes, we are a big country, population wise, economy wise we are fourth, area wise we are seventh, but yet we should not neglect other smaller countries. And in this, during the last 10 years of present regime, this system of approaching the smaller countries, whether they are neighbor or not, but approaching the smaller countries has been priority for Indian foreign policy. Like you will see visiting Brunei, and not only that, before that, no Prime Minister visited Australia for 30 years, no Prime Minister visited Canada for 40 years, no Prime Minister visited visited Fiji or visited
Ukraine,
other smaller countries in Pacific Ocean. Prime Minister had been visiting Washington, New York, Moscow, Sydney, Canberra,
Beijing,
Tokyo, etc. But not the smaller ones who had always been with us. So that in that respect, this visit assumes an added importance that for the first time the Indian Prime Minister is going there. And however small the country is, but we have more than 40 billion investment there. Our business is more than 170 billion dollars. Our business is more than 13 billion dollars. We import gas from them, we take oil from them. So that way it becomes very important for us. So, and that too when we are dialogue partner of ASEAN and this country is member of ASEAN from its inception, it makes it all the most, it calls for a visit to be materialized between India and Brunei. So this is very important occasion.
Sir, we have seen that this visit is historic, that you have highlighted rightly that this was somehow the negligence of smaller states. But at the same time, we have seen the last so many visits of Indian Prime Minister visited. Last 45 years, no Prime Minister visited there. How do you think that this visit, especially in Brunei and Singapore, country like Brunei, that occupies very a prominent role in India's Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision. So how do you see that China does have lots of investment and influence in Asian country-wise as well as the regional organization-wise? Do you think that India is not in that position?
Well, certainly India is not, as regards investment, India is not as big as China in ASEAN. But nevertheless, we are present there and our presence is growing. Like Indians in Singapore are very well respected. Even the president of Singapore is a person of Tamil origin. In Brunei, we have more than 14,000 Indians living there in various walks of life. Students from Brunei, Dar es Salaam, have been studying in India on ICCR scholarships and ITEC scholarships. We could not be as big as China because one, we refused to get into the RECP because our apprehensions were that if we get in RECP, then China will get a Magna Carta to come and dump its goods to India. So that apart, our relations with ASEAN are very good, and in fact, in our immediate organization, that is BIMSTEC, we have countries from ASEAN, and we also have, like you see, we also have the road rail corridor we are making from here to Mekong. So we have been very good. We have had very good relations with ASEAN, but the only thing is that our trade with ASEAN has not grown as much as it should have, because we have, never forget, we had historical relations. Java, Sumatra, Bali, Borneo, Vietnam, which is called Champa. And in fact, Ayodhya's Rajkumari was married to a South Korean Rajkumar.
Great.
So we have very good relationship. I think we should try to enhance this relationship, at least business relationship, more in terms of defense, more in terms of IT, and more in terms of digital payments, etc. And I am happy that we have been exporting BrahMos to Vietnam and Tejas to Philippines and so on and so forth. So it's China. China has got big money power, and China can browbeat the smaller nations of Asia once it gives a debt, and then the debt trap enlarges and it entraps them. But these countries have now understood, they have realized that Chinese debt is not a very clean debt. Like you see, case of Malaysia. Malaysia had a Chinese project to build a railway, but then Malaysia refused. Malaysia politely refused. Sorry, we are not doing that with you, because they knew it. So things, and then our perspective of Indo-Pacific
जी.
matches with the perspective of Indo-Pacific propagated by ASEAN country. So we have quite a lot of similarities. The only thing is we have to move fast in connecting the dots.
Yes, sir. Rightly, you have highlighted the kind of Indian historic and cultural linkages with the Southeast Asian region, and especially the kind of, you mentioned that yes, Indian diaspora, especially in Brunei, Tamils are there, Gujaratis are there, Malayalis are there. So I think this is the right time to engage and to explore India's footprint in Brunei.
Yes, you'll be surprised that for a small country like Brunei, whose area is just 5,770 square kilometer, and whose population is just 4,65,000 or so, and with 14,000 Indians,
Yeah.
there had been 6 Indians who had been given Pravasi Bharati Award in the past years.
Great.
That itself shows how Indians are regarded there and how they are flourishing, how they are working with the government, working with the people for uplift of the country. So that makes very important that Indian Prime Minister visits there. I don't know, people had been criticizing left and right that the Prime Minister makes so many of visits, 50, 60 visits a year, and which causes an unnecessary pressure burden on Indian exchequer. But let me clarify today that even with all those visits during the last 10 years, the expenditure on these was less than the expenditure on done by the past government on foreign visits, because when the previous Prime Minister used to go, he used to travel with 150, 120, 180 or 200 people, journalists, photographers, this and that, whereas this Prime Minister doesn't. He has very minuscule type of delegation. So overall, the expenditure incurred by the government of India on the visits of Prime Minister Modi to abroad is much less than what had been incurred by the previous Prime Minister's visits. But as I said, Brunei has been quite on our side in many organizations. And for us, it becomes important, more important, because Brunei is member of Commonwealth. Brunei is member of OIC. Brunei is member of APEC. Brunei is one of the founding members of WTO. And Brunei is member of course, ASEAN and BIP, BIMP, ESGA.
So there is lots of multilateral engagement between
Engagement, lots of overlapping where we meet them.
Yeah.
And in
So
today's
could you clarify something? OIC.
OIC is Organization of Islamic Countries,
Okay.
which Brunei is member, and it's very important for us because at times Pakistan goes crying to OIC, complaining about Kashmir and about 370, and then asking them to pass a resolution, etc. So in that respect, to have some countries in our favor in OIC is much better, is much, you can say, relevant in today's time.
Sir, these are the great insights Ambassador JK Tripathi sir has pointed out that yes, on many platforms, on many multilateral platforms, Brunei has been a part, as well as India engages with Brunei. Though Indian Prime Minister didn't visit there, however, Indian community is there, and the community is very influential. They are making lots of contribution to the progress of Brunei. Sir, the last question to you. We have seen the great power competition in Southeast Asian region. And this is a great power competition between Washington and the Beijing. This is the right. Do you think this is the right time to materialize this space? Because all the South Asian countries, they are hesitant, reluctant to engage with the China, either the USA, and they're looking towards India. So is it the right time?
In Southeast Asian countries.
Yeah. So is it right time to capitalize, to materialize this space? The kind of space is there, because smaller countries are very reluctant to engage with China as well as the USA.
Yes, you are right, because as you rightly observed, these smaller nations, they don't have big economy and they don't have money to fund for their development. But at the same time, and the money is, China has money, but at the same time, they are wary of China's evil designs. Recently, you see, the tussle between China and Philippines, the tussle between South Korea and China, the tussle between Vietnam and China, Malaysia and China. Except, besides Senkaku Islands, which Japan claims, other islands, Sparta Island or Paracel Islands, many small islands are claimed by these small countries, and they are being, you can say, they are being claimed by China as well. So they are being disputed with China and Taiwan, for example, and therefore China's 9-dash line, which is now 10-dash line, has also created problems there for these smaller nations who are worried that China might capture them by browbeating or by arm twisting tactics of giving debt unconditionally and then superimposing conditions later on. So at this time, it is good. It is the opportune time for India to step in. But one problem we have, and I am not ashamed of admitting that, we are short of funds. We don't have as much funds, as much money as China has. Chinese pocket is very deep. Ours is not. So we have to approach them very carefully, very cautiously, so that they don't feel offended, they don't feel neglected at the same time, and they feel assured by India. Because we have one of our big USPs has been that we have never tried or thought of capturing any other country's land.
Yeah.
We have the case of Bangladesh, we have the case of Sri Lanka, we have the case of Maldives. We have helped them every time, but we have not tried to capture them. And similarly, in the past also, you see, when our cultural expansion was there in Southeast Asia, it was only cultural expansion. It was not political or defense expansion or territorial expansion. So that credentials that we have,
Exactly.
and that is impeccable for those countries, and we should capitalize on that.
It's wonderful, wonderful insights that India has been expanding its footprints culturally, not strategically as China. That's why we can leverage this kind of cultural influence, this kind of cultural engages. If once we are engaged culturally, So politically, that will become a condition for India, and that's why this is the India's credential and USP that India has never attacked, and this is because of its smaller states are very comfort to engage India in comparison to China. So thank you so much for this podcast. Thank you.